Hello and welcome to our reflections for Tuesday. I want to tell you about an experience I had last Thursday. I was in the centre of Newcastle, at various district meetings, the district leadership team in the afternoon, and district policy committee at night, and there was a space between the meetings, and it was not worth coming home, so I had a couple of hours to just sort of spend in the centre of Newcastle, which is something I rarely do. And I decided that I'd go along to the Laing Art Gallery because I'd heard that the Lindisfarne Gospels were there. And quite an experience it was. The Lindisfarne Gospels are about as big as an old family Bible. It's a book that was written the start of the 700s AD by the monks of Lindisfarne. And it's a beautifully illustrated manuscript on the finest vellum. And it looks as if it was written 30 years ago, not 1300 years ago. The page that was open behind the glass security window, because it's a highly precious document loaned by the British Museum, the page that was open was the opening page, the incipit page, as they call it, which means it begins in Latin, of John's Gospel. There's what's called a carpet illustration on the left-hand side of the opened Bible, and each of the Gospels has this carpet illustration, so named because it looks like an old carpet, but actually beautifully illustrated designs, which are supposed to illustrate the actual evangelist who wrote that particular gospel. And the page that was open gets through about one verse of St. John's Gospel, because it starts with a massively brightly illustrated and designed letter I, which is the start of the Gospel. It was amazing to see something that was so incredibly well preserved, that was so old. 1300 years. No wonder it's behind the security glass and deemed so precious. Of course, the monks at the time, who devoted their energy and time and careful artistry to producing the Lindisfarne Gospels, wouldn't have had a clue that it was going to be deemed so precious so long afterwards. It struck me that it's really important to see those sorts of obvious indicators that we are linked to something that has gone on for a long, long time. This Christianity of which we are a part rests on the work of those who have gone before us, who have kept the Gospels about Jesus going through the ages, the Lindisfarne Gospels amongst them. But it struck me also that it's important to remind us of the way in which it's not important who does what. We are a team who are in it together. So the scholars seem to believe that it was a monk called Eadrith who wrote the Lindisfarne Gospels. It took him over 2 decades. It was his particular work whilst he was a monk and then bishop on Lindisfarne itself. But also there is an inscription towards the end of the Gospels that says that Aethelwald bound it, produced the cover, which is still so perfectly preserved. made of leather, but that it was also a monk called Bill Frith who put the jewels in the outside binding, who made it such a beautiful, precious, very valuable work, not just in posterity, but at the time with silver being used as decoration for the front along with precious jewels. All so that people would appreciate the value of the words that were inside it. I recommend that you go to see it if you get the chance. You can also see the Bible that was St Cuthbert's own Bible, buried with him when he died, and preserved in likewise a brilliant preserved state. It's a special sort of exhibition. It costs you £9 to get in. Well, it cost me £9 anyway. Well worth it. The only point to this reflection, really, is to remind us of how precious the Word of God is, and the Gospels in particular, but also of the way in which we can never assess how much the things that we do will be precious in other people's eyes. We don't know, just like those monks, how it will be judged in the future. But that old adage is true, that we ourselves may be the only gospel that some people read. And it's whether or not we give a proper likeness to that which Jesus spoke in the Gospels. I encourage you to be a good gospel, that the word of God might be revealed even in us. God bless.